what was another one? Betty White was in, what was another bad movie that Betty White was? Hard Rain with Christian Slater and Morgan Freeman. You did, you don't remember that one? That was pretty good.
Christian Slater, I saw you in Broken Arrow.
I think the cold open is going to end with Zach doing an impression of Morgan Slater. I just ran the two of them together.
What? Morgan Slater?
Hi, it's me from the Welcome to Wonderland podcast. Are you looking for the perfect blend of nostalgia and patriotism in your wardrobe? Look no further than ZJZ Designs, available now at zjzdesigns.com. Their exclusive t-shirt collection features stunning designs like the iconic Plymouth Barracuda print, taking you back to the golden era of muscle cars. Show your love for your country with their bold patriotic heart designs that stand out and make a statement. From car enthusiast to proud patriot, ZJZ Designs has something special just for you. Head to ZJZ Designs and elevate your style. Visit zjzdesigns.com or check the show notes.
The All About Nothing podcast may have language and content
that isn't appropriate for some.
Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome, Nothingers, to another episode of the All About Nothing podcast. This is episode number 213. I am Barrett Gruber. All right, I'm going to welcome our guest, Mr. Wayne Borders, here to the show in just a second. Please do subscribe to the show, share it with your family and friends. That's how we get new listeners. Also, if you could, please consider supporting the show financially by becoming a visitor, by becoming a member, by visiting our website and checking the support link. We'll have more details at the end of the show. Also, if you can, please drop a review, hit the 5 stars, give us a thumbs up, or leave a comment. All of that helps drive our show higher in the ratings on all of these podcast platforms. Real quick, I want to thank again John Costas Jr., Broadcast and Media Relations Manager of the Columbia Fireflies, for our Nothing or Firefly update. You get that each week as well. If you are an exclusive member, you can hear the old ones that John has given to us. I don't know why that would be necessary, but if you're doing some sort of research on the Columbia Fireflies, there's audio available.
And if you are a patron for us, John will re-record it in 1950s baseball announcer voice.
That's right.
Yeah, Sanchez is on first. He's looking to get on second. The winning run is on home plate.
John, if you heard that, no, we're not paying you. The 2024 Soda City Comic Con is coming up August 24th and 25th. There will be tons of people there in cosplay, voice talent actors that have been announced so far, which we've talked about: Peter Cullen, Michael Bell, Matthew Watterson, who is, of course, Magneto, Adrian Hugh, Allison Seeley Smith, Lenore Zahn, and many more. They actually just announced this week that Cal Dodd, who is the voice of Wolverine. So now we have Magneto,
X-Men.
Yeah, Rogue, Storm, Nightcrawler, and Wolverine. So that's pretty cool. It would be really cool as if when we do a panel with them, if we could potentially get them to like have an argument on stage. Or just have Cal just be like, "Get out of my face, bub," that sort of thing. That'd be really cool.
Yeah, we'll make them pretend like they're hosting a podcast.
that'd be hilarious. The X-Men podcast. That's going to be at the Columbia Metropolitan Convention Center again, August 24th, 25th. Details and tickets available at sodacitycomiccon.com. So check that out. All right. On to our show. We have this week Wayne Borders, who is the candidate for District 89, which is West Columbia, Casey, and Springdale. It is directly next to my district, which is 88. And unfortunately, we didn't have anyone brave enough to run against the Republican in our district this go round, which is similar to the first go round that RJ May got to take advantage of the lack of interest, apparently. So, Wayne, welcome to the All About Nothing podcast. Thank you for being here with us.
Thank you, Wayne.
Thank you guys for having me.
Yeah. So we'll go through. We've got some questions and things like that, and they won't be too difficult. But are you originally from West Columbia? Is this, or did you migrate here like me?
No. So I'm originally from Houston, Texas. But okay. I grew up in the Red Bank area from about the early 90s, like 91 or so, until I graduated high school in 2001. Okay. Attended college and made my way back to Houston for a little bit, and then moved back here a few days before Christmas in 2010.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And been committed to the place ever since. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Nice.
in on your website, one of the things that you mentioned is the fact that you've been thinking about wanting to run for politics or political office since you were in high school. What is, because there's usually a catalyst. There's a reason for that. What was the reason that was in your head? What was the reason for that?
Yeah. So just my family being, middle class. My mother was a journalist. My stepfather was in the military. Um, it's watching the news was a constant in our household.
Sure.
And then at some point in high school, I joined our speech and debate team, and it was there I really realized, that without some kind of like wider civic education, without some kind of real initiative in getting people to understand that running this country is a collective task that we have to take up as individuals.
Mm-hmm.
This is a whole work together project kind of thing.
Yeah.
That's why I thought it would be cool to someday, find an office that, I would, of course, be living and want to represent.
Yeah. Yeah. And the district that you're running in, District 89, is one that, being directly adjacent to where I live, is one that I travel through. Mayor Tim Miles is somebody that we've engaged with many times. He's a friend of the show, and he's absolute pleasure to have on the show.
Mm-hmm.
I attend West Columbia council meetings from time to time, depending on which council member is going to be receiving a public shakedown.
Shaming,
Yeah, shaming. So, it's such a unique area. It's really growing. I mean, there are so many projects on Highway 1 alone that are benefiting a lot of the businesses and even residents that live in the area. You have that whole West Columbia right off the river corridor where we're seeing such growth. It's very controlled, but it's really terrific growth that's going on down there. Black Rooster, I have not yet eaten there, and I guess I missed out on their French.
It's fantastic. Yeah, it was fantastic when it was French.
Yeah, I was gonna say I missed out on their French stylings, but apparently I can go there for pasta now. So that's exciting. So what is something about this particular time? Because this is your first time running for office, correct?
Yes. So what's particular about this time is the fact that we have so far been represented by someone for 8 years. That person has yet to receive a majority of the votes in the district, has only been challenged once
in 8 years.
In 8 years. And what have we heard about the goings on at the State House over that course of time? Nothing.
Right.
Like, when's the last time there's been a town hall? I talk to people and they can't even pronounce his name if they have an idea of who he is.
Oh, so let me try.
It is
Caskey.
You did it.
Okay. So before both of you logged on, Bill Fry and I, our producer intern, he and I were discussing literally that. I said Micah. I said Caskey. Is that Caskey? Is it? And then we settled on Caskey. I think Bill looked it up. But I have heard Micah Caskey's name before, and but it's kind of like I don't know a whole lot about him except for the fact that he does seem to manage to raise a lot of money and spend a lot of money. whether it's, we pulled up a list of the places that he spent money. The Charleston Place Hotel, some $1,700 or whatnot, that he's spent almost $19,000 on a Republican strategist for a job ultimately that even if you do really, really well and you get your name on a ton of bills and you sponsor these bills or you co-sponsor them and you get them passed, they become law, you're still only going to make $10,000 a year. I'm dumbfounded by how much money some of these candidates seem to get. He's got some political PACs behind him, but ultimately, I don't see any legislation that McCaskey has put forward or has had his name on that has really benefited the district.
I will note he was the primary sponsor and did get passed a bill that regulated which specific size hook to use on the lower Saluda River.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. Very important stuff.
That was early on in his career, yes.
This was we're talking about fishing. Am I right?
I believe so, yes.
Well, let me write that down because otherwise I was going to say he's done nothing.
In stark contrast, he's not a fan of Roe v. Wade, so don't hurt the fishies or the babies.
Yeah. I didn't find any legislation in his record having to do anything with any sort of child protection after birth. I don't see anything in his background having to do with any community programs that he's been involved with. The only thing it looks like is that he was in the Marines. I'll give you that. We appreciate all that have served. But outside of that, I don't really see anything of what he potentially benefit or how the West Columbia, Casey, Springdale area benefits from being on there. I know there's one regarding, I guess, nuclear energy. So if we see Wayne Borders elected, we see your top priorities are securing and protecting women's reproductive rights here in South Carolina, especially on abortion.
Absolutely.
Which is fundamentally for me, and I'm going to include Zach in this as well, but it isn't necessarily just approving of the idea of abortion, but it's the idea that that abortion is a medical necessity that should be part of just in general women's health. It shouldn't be something that's singled out as a crime or some sort of way. For me, I think that it's a desire by white old Republican men to control women like they could back in the 50s.
Yeah. Yeah. Because if there was something that was restricted for men medically, we have a problem with that. Mm-hmm. And there is a history in this country of men being denied medical care, and then we have a whole hullabaloo about that. We have a whole issue and a national conversation, and we change policy, we change laws, and we make our lives a little bit better.
Yeah.
Why can't we do the same for women? I mean, if nothing else, abortion has made so many men's lives, quite frankly, possible to live.
Sure.
Whether it was your mother who had an abortion before you were born, or, an early relationship that both of you knew wasn't right, or just, people who do want to have children, but for some reason it's just not biologically possible. None of this has anything to do with the government.
Right.
Quite frankly.
And if you're able to see that it's a non-viable fetus early on.
Yeah. And even still, I'm willing to make a limited government argument based on that fact too.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. I think one of the things that disturbs me most about the fact, just like you said, there isn't anything that there's nothing that I can think of, and maybe we can just play a quick game. What is something that could be medically available to men that that if was taken away from us as a human right, what is something that could be taken away from men as a human right that would
all right,
is that
this is how we expand, and this is how we broaden the conversation. So the history that I'm pointing to is the AIDS epidemic.
Sure.
Because it was a large group of men who were largely either being denied health care, at like the primary source level, where doctors wouldn't want to touch you, nurses wouldn't want to like help you too much.
Sure.
Those men had a need. There was a medical issue. There was care that they deserved. And what did we do as a community? Fought for that.
Yeah.
What did we achieve? Now we achieved a point where, we're normalizing and treating STIs, HIV, and really like working on that as a community, like as a state.
Yeah.
That's some of the things that government can do well.
One of the things that I've read recently out of some medical journals is the fact that they have either basically they have basically suppressed HIV/AIDS now to the point where it's no longer it eventually here in the next couple of years it's going to be viewed as no longer an endemic, because, and I think, and I'm guessing, but I believe that part of that reason is because the medication that has been available at such a high cost previously, those patents have now run out, which means that those patents that are available to the public and other medical pharmaceuticals are now creating those same medications. They are more readily available for a much better priced cost. And now we're seeing the decline of HIV and AIDS, which if you're a conspiracist, then you probably believe it was created in a lab specifically to attack the African-American male population anyway. And I'm not saying I believe that one way or the other, but I mentioned it.
But it's funny you do go there, because we are seeing in pockets, especially the United States, unlike South Carolina, where yes, rates are on the decline, but then you also have medications where you can actually prevent HIV.
Yeah.
So if you juxtapose that to this conversation about abortion, a thing that women have been doing since before Roe v. Wade, since after the Dobbs decision, and on into the future, as long as women and humanity will exist, why are we even discussing something that is a medical necessity? Something that, especially in a life-threatening situation, if that's what's necessary to save this woman's life, then why is this a discussion?
Yeah.
I think too, you have a lot of willful ignorance on anybody on the Republican side to actually delve into it earnestly and honestly, and understand the difference between a clump of cells and a viable, human being, witness consciousness, that kind of thing. Also, you have dogmatic beliefs that take precedent over it, and that will outweigh, without thinking about it and testing it. They'll just hold on to what has been. These are to them, you're killing a 2-year-old.
Right.
And they won't look any further into it.
Which is such a denial of like acknowledging science at all.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Well, and then that gets to the fact that mostly what we have going on in South Carolina because of the gerrymandering is national politics influencing, well, not even just national politics, but national groups really influencing the policy that we then put in place for our citizens to live. That's one part of the problem as well, considering that a lot of people who are not voting don't even feel like they have anybody to vote for.
Well, you have those, I guess you could put it, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you would have people on the Republican side, and I'm sure there's Democratic side, but you would have people who want to be part of that national chain, that group of fat cats that I'm with Donald Trump, or I'm with so and so, I'm with Lindsey Graham. I want to be part of that and support legislation, whether or not they specifically agree with every part of it, but support it to hold on to that, right? To be part of that, and get votes.
Well, and that's why probably one reason why my opponent didn't even vote on the abortion bills. Right. He conveniently, especially in passing one bill from the House to the Senate, voted for the vote to go forward, but then he had an excused absence.
Well, it's only a 10 or 12 week session. You know, how can you potentially find, especially as what is it he does? He's a private.
He's a lawyer.
A private lawyer. You'd think that would make him more available. Considering what 3/4 of the House of Representatives are lawyers.
And it's interesting too that was the first day he did it, because the second time he did it was another time they took up the legislation. Yeah.
Well, I tend to agree with my good friend Neil deGrasse Tyson, as Barrett knows. We need more not lawyers to be elected. We need more your scientists, your teachers, things like that to represent everybody.
I mean, there were men in the General Assembly who couldn't even answer the question about the approximate age a young woman gets her period.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
That's insane.
Well, you know, so in just doing a little bit
bad as one of those legislators who thought that you could swallow a camera.
Well, Zach, we
picture the uterus from the stomach.
we lost Zach's audio. That's okay. We're good. One of or what's his name, Billy Garrett out of Greenwood, who went in front of a committee and said that there was an incident where at a Greenwood County school that there were teachers, there was a student that wanted to be referred to as a cat, and that the school went to lengths to support that individual student, up to and even putting a cat litter box available in either in the classroom or something like that for the student to use. And it's like, so when that came out, I called every single public school in Greenwood County to find out and to speak with the principal or an assistant principal to find out, one, was it your school that this incident occurred at? Did you all truly accommodate this student by referring to them as a cat like they wanted? Yeah. And was there actually a litter box? All of the public schools that I spoke with, all of them confirmed it was not them, that did not occur at their school. So when they pressed Billy Garrett about that incident, he basically passed it off like, well, that's what I heard. And that is such a cheap out in every sense. And that ultimately is from our state legislatures that represent my district currently and your district currently, to state senators across the state. That is they make these accusations. They're not founded in truth, and their out is, well, that's what I heard. That's what somebody told me. And it's like, you hold a position that is recognized across the public, not only in your district but across the state, that you are putting things out there into the public realm that have no basis of truth, and you've done nothing to try and find out where it came from or why someone said it. And I think that's one of the biggest problems I have with the representation that we have in the Republican Party, especially. I don't hear it out of the Democratic Party. There aren't individuals that I hear them say something in front of a journalist and it gets printed, and I read it and I go, well, clearly Tom Feddersen didn't do his research before he came out in front of a bank of cameras and microphones and said this absurdity. It's, you know,
be able to walk of shame people who do that, just blatantly just heard something and passed it along as fact. Shame, shame, shame. Parade them downtown around the State House.
Yeah.
It's such a scare tactic that the Republican Party uses, and the Democratic Party, the only scare tactic I think that the Democratic Party uses is, here is Donald Trump. If you reelect Donald Trump, if you reelect some of these representatives in the districts, even across South Carolina, if you reelect these people, this may potentially be the last election we get to have.
Yeah, but they're too focused on the national level.
Right.
So, like, I'm just running for a state house seat.
Right.
Which means I also need to understand the dynamics of what I'm walking into should I be elected. I get that I would be in the minority. I get that there are issues that the other side wants to work on that I'm fundamentally might be opposed to. Like I would like kids to eat during the summer.
Right.
Maybe we could teach children how to swim, opening up another like water park somewhere. Yeah. Who knows? Like state government, there's so many things that we could do with what we have. So who knows?
Yeah.
But it just depends on what happens at the state house. Will that be something that I let the people of the district in on so that they have some decision-making power?
Yeah.
That's one of the things that I feel so strongly about, is the fact that, we talk about all politics being local. Well, all power, builds up.
Correct.
Because of the low turnout, there is a space for candidates at this level, state, municipal, maybe you want to like run for a county board kind of thing.
Yeah.
There's enough like votes out there. There's enough of a constituency to actually make these runs. It's the fact that nobody does it.
Yeah, 100%. I completely agree.
I guess people have given up on the system, and I get it. I see why. They see it not working. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy.
And Wayne, yes. One of the things that I find the most interesting is that at a voter level, a lot of the individuals that actually do vote for our state representatives, our state senators that actually show up and vote, I don't know that they can clearly define what it is. What is the responsibilities of the individual, or what is the responsibilities going to be of that office? Mm-hmm. So in the House of Representatives, the House of the Representatives at the state level is pretty much the purse strings. I mean, this is the group that controls the budgeting as far as the bills that get passed in order to take advantage of federal money that's coming available, or take advantage or to use the state tax funds that are coming in. What programs that money needs to go to, things like that, in South Carolina. And then of course it has to go to the Senate, where they then agree on and vote on it. And then if everything passes, it goes to the governor. The governor likes it enough, he signs it into law. Yeah. The Senate is the law side of the legislative body in South Carolina. That's where we get things like the potential of passing a bill to allow for medical use marijuana, which is one of the issues that you have on your platform. Mm-hmm. How if let's say in a perfect world, you get to co-sponsor a bill that potentially legalizes medical marijuana here in South Carolina. What do you say to people? What do you tell the voters when you're canvassing or when you're out in public talking to people? What is it that you tell them as far as how this could potentially benefit them?
So I've been working on that issue for a number of years. And to be honest, the people are ahead of the legislature.
Sure. This. Yeah, agreed. Oh, excuse me. Sorry.
And so I don't think it's so much that I have to tell people how it will benefit their lives. Part of the reason I would be in the body would be to ensure that the legislation would actually do that. That's when you need to be reading these bills carefully about exactly, what tax revenue would be raised. Where would that tax revenue go? And for some people, that's, that's too much of a conversation for them. Like, they'd rather not have that. They'd rather just, well, we want it now, or how soon can we get it? Rather than, like I said, understanding that it's sometimes about little negotiations, little push and pull of what you can possibly win.
Yeah.
And that's why I support pretty much any bill that has almost come across the finish line.
Yeah.
I know the CARES, I believe it's the what's the name of it? I had it on the tip of my tongue.
There are so many bills that are useful and so many bills that are absolutely not useful. It's so easy. It's easy to forget. It's easy to forget the important ones.
True. And because they don't bring it up a whole lot,
right?
And it doesn't get a whole lot of media attention. It's true. We kind of gloss over it. But there is a medical marijuana bill that was kind of close to passing. I know that it's possible to put something as well as a state representative to a vote of the body,
right,
to put it on a statewide ballot.
See,
our representative hasn't tried that.
Right.
No other representative has tried that. People keep calling for it, but apparently we are afraid of actual democracy in South Carolina.
Oh, for certain. Oh, there is. I am dumbfounded by the fact that we still, in my time here in South Carolina, and being a registered voter, I have not yet seen a referendum be presented for the citizens of South Carolina to be able to vote on, whether it's abortion, marijuana, gun legislation.
But they'll do a lot of non-binding.
Oh, yeah.
Little referendum during a primary. It's just their voters.
Yeah.
Because the thing of it is, and that's another thing I would love for people to understand this election cycle. When you register to vote in South Carolina, you are not a registered Democrat. You're not a registered Republican. You are a citizen of this state, which means as a citizen, we all have a responsibility to each other to make our communities better.
Yeah.
To elect we say, a lot of people love to say, oh, well, I'll vote for whoever has the best policy, I'll vote for the best person rather than, like the party. Well, here's your chance.
Right. Yeah. I'll present it this way. And I have two different perspectives on or I guess two different anecdotes.
Mm-hmm.
I have for the last 8 years, I'm sorry, not 8 years, 6 years.
Mm-hmm.
I have operated as a precinct clerk for every election that comes up. I'm not doing it this year I'm not doing it for most of these elections this year because I'm the campaign manager for Matt Villardebeau, Matt V for SC.com for donations and things like that. In my experience in running a precinct for the elections, whether it's primaries, whatnot, I am constantly dumbfounded by these non-binding survey questions that the Republicans constantly put in there.
Mm-hmm.
And every single time it happens, I get asked the same questions by the voters in those primaries saying, well, what does this mean? I said, and I look at them, I go, I'm going to give you a secret. They don't care what direction this goes or not. The only reason they're putting it in there is because their hope is, and I could be wrong, this is my opinion from my perspective based on observance of the Republican Party in South Carolina, they're putting it in there to overcomplicate the primary. And by putting it in there or putting it in the general election, they are basically trying to make it more complicated for you to stand there longer, to slow down the voting line so that people will step out of line and not vote, or will say, I'll just come back after work and vote. And then they don't return. I think that this is, no one has to agree with me on this, but I think that the addition of non-binding voting surveys is primarily an attempt to suppress voters. It's absolutely absurd because of the questions over the last few years, Thunder We finally getting rain here in West Columbia.
Yeah.
Cue
so
the
happy.
either you just
We lost Zach again. Zach's
no.
audio went out again. Yeah. Yeah, it's it could have been some all powerful individual overseeing our podcast today could have potentially decided.
But I guess the real political logic, I guess, is like those things are supposed to be like turnout generators for quote unquote their voters, which across most districts they kind of have shown us what that vote share is, and it's usually no more than 30% or so.
Right.
But because nobody runs, but because when the people who do run, how I guess don't have like the right campaign infrastructure. I'm not sure. I don't want because
in your time here in South Carolina, have you seen the Democratic Party use? I have not seen it, so I don't know.
So in my time in South Carolina, I don't think I've seen the Democratic Party use data basically very well, especially state level data.
Yeah.
It's like so like the question is, kind of at some point, like, what do the people know about running the campaigns or, speaking to their neighborhoods? I'm not sure how what the real political process is that I guess we've been using this whole time, because if it's this whole good old boy network of relationships, then you're literally carving out a segment of the whole population.
Yeah.
That means you don't need to talk to the other people who live in your district, and then once you're there, what are you doing with all the money you're raising and all these in between times when you don't have any opposition?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I absolutely agree. It's I think that for a lot of voters in South Carolina, as far as Democratic Party, I think that there's also this sort of they've kind of just rolled over as far as the voters go. They seem to have just kind of rolled over and said, well, we'll deal with it this time, maybe next time, I don't follow my own advice, but anyone that whether you consider yourself to be a conservative or be a liberal or progressive or moderate, whatever, if you have an interest in running for office, just do it. It's not how much does it cost to run for
a state house? It was about $210.
Okay. Yeah. That's it for some people that's a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
But there is such an opportunity to be engaged in the system, in the political system, to be able to potentially be elected. There are so many Republicans out there that are running unopposed that don't even have to campaign. RJ May in my district, no one's running against him, so he doesn't even have to campaign this time.
Or even positions on boards.
Yeah.
Positions on commissions. Yeah. There's all kinds of things that people can be running for.
One of the things that the South Carolina Republican Party put before the voters in the 2020 election, or maybe it was 2022, in the general election, there was a survey question that said, would or I guess the House, the legislative put it through because they wanted an interest in the idea of whether or not people would like for local school boards to be affiliated by party.
Mm-hmm.
When people asked me what that question meant, I explained it the same way every time, that basically the legislative body wants an idea of how many people would be interested in seeing the candidates broken up, but that's not really what the question was for. If it had gained enough support, then essentially the idea is that because most voters that come into the polling precincts and they cast their vote, a lot of them just vote party ticket. They just vote party line, which means that the school boards would now be subject to, instead of being voted for individually based on the person, that you would basically just be electing all of the Republicans, or and that to me is very scary, because I think an uninformed voter is just as dangerous as a ruthless dictator leader. Those are two things that scare me when it comes to our election process, is this idea that someone who is completely uninformed and doesn't care about what the actual issues are and things like that would just come in and vote. And now you have set a precedent for at least the next 4 years that could potentially unravel everything. 2024 general election. It's a scary thing. What are some of the questions that you get from the voters when you meet with individuals, whether it's out in public or with canvassing?
So right now it's pretty early, because it's so early.
Sure.
It's a little like pulling teeth.
Oh yeah,
but sometimes, when I do get some reception, it's pretty much just a general just confusion a little bit, that one, oh, you're someone who's running for a political office. Oh, you're actually talking to like us. Because I've gone out various times a day to speak with people, and sometimes they just have no clue. They just don't see it coming. Because I guess no one seems to be doing, I guess, that groundwork kind of campaign, where you're actually going to people, having conversations. So yeah. I mean, that's what I did for Bernie twice. In areas of South Carolina, like down around Aiken and the Orangeburg area, like Bamberg, actually.
So you did canvassing. Did you do phone calling, I guess, for Bernie?
A little bit of phone banking, but mostly a lot of on the ground at doors. But right now most voters are just kind of just like, when even is the election? So that's why I make sure to have the date for the early vote, which is October 11th, and then the actual election day, November 5th. So
that also is one of the scariest things.
Most people are just tuned out right now.
That is absolutely one of the scariest things to me when it comes to elections, is that uninformed voter, and how easily for some of them they can be influenced one way or the other. But I think it takes the work that I keep bumping my mic. It takes the work that you're doing to, and your campaign may not be off and running completely right now, because it is early. The campaign that I'm working with Matt Villardo, we walked in the Fort Mill 4th of July parade this week. Mm-hmm. And I look forward to having Brandon Upson on the podcast, because there were several individuals in the crowd that were yelling, "Let's go, Brandon," and "F you, Brandon," and things like that. And Brandon would literally turn around and look at him and be like, "My name's Brandon. What did I do?" It's so, but it's those type of individuals that would be willing to yell obscenities in front of their children or in front of other people's children that I feel like are probably some of the most uninformed, these individuals that haven't really been engaged, but have seen something on television or seen something on Facebook, that now they're using that to support their decisions to vote.
I mean, there could be just the darker American history of white supremacy behind it.
That's true.
I mean, that's what all these good Christians, seem to be all about. Stopping women with their, I get to sleep with whoever I want and not have a baby.
Right.
It's uncomfortable. what are some of the things that you're going to do as far as like your campaign? Like, do you have anything planned as far as like potential town halls or not necessarily you have planned? There's no dates in place, but what are some of your ideas for how you're going to get out there and run your?
So I definitely think as a legislator, I would need to find ways to communicate with my constituents. I mean, everybody's used to getting all these random political mailers that don't say anything.
Agreed.
Or when they do, it's generic. We built, and it's like you didn't actually build that.
Barrett got 2 mailers from 2 different people who were running that were the exact same.
Yeah, Katrina Shealy and then the woman that was that was primarying RJ May. I can't Lorelei.
But where were some of those mailers when some of these big discussions and debates were happening? Like, hey, over the last 2 weeks, the General Assembly or the House was discussing X.
Yeah.
And then you get a mailer about that.
Right.
I mean, that's one way. I think that's a good way to spend some of that campaign money that's been raised.
Yeah, agreed.
And not spent with any kind of
over the
opposition.
Over the course of your time in office, from the last time you got elected to the next time you run for office, why can't you use some of your campaign money to potentially put out? They don't have to be mailers. They can just be addressed.
It could be a little newspaper insert.
Yeah.
It could be, but something that's local. So, I mean, even if it's like a virtual meeting, like a virtual town hall of sorts.
Yeah.
I mean, people are used to Zoom now. People can tune in on their phones.
They watch TV. It's like,
I mean, because what was, and this speaks to it. This speaks to it. During one of the early abortion debates in August of, I think, 22, I wrote my representative a letter. Wrote him a letter, and left it with him. 2 years go by, and then on my birthday, I get some like happy birthday from your representative mail. Like, what?
Yeah, Joe Wilson did that to me too.
Did the mailman stop for cigarettes?
Yeah. Our governor, my son graduated from high school this year and received a letter in the mail from the governor that made it seem like it was a personal letter to him. But I guarantee you that was a letter that was sent out during a non-campaign year for I can't even think of his name now. McMasters. I want to say Foghorn Leghorn. But these letters are sent out at the expense of us as taxpayers, which I appreciate the fact that they're using the postal service and they didn't privatize it out to like FedEx or UPS or something like that. Not that I don't support UPS or FedEx, but we have a postal service in the United States that is under so much scrutiny for not meeting budgetary issues, which aren't their fault, and for having a postmaster general like Louis DeJoy, who is one of the greediest, capitalistic, awful human beings.
We support the postal service.
Yeah,
and the union. Yes.
So. One of the other questions that I wanted to ask you as well was in West Columbia, Casey, Springdale. We've Springdale was one of the areas in the 2015 floods that saw several roads that had to be detoured and over years because of the flooding that occurred during the 2015 thousand-year flood. What is in your campaigning for office? What is one of the things that you look at as being the most important as far as infrastructure for District 89?
We're going to have to figure out our flooding situation. We're also going to have to probably become more concerned about the possibility of tornadoes.
Okay.
And so we will need to make sure that however we're doing our zoning is I guess, just as safe as possible. We're definitely have to repave roads.
Yeah.
I definitely think there should probably be a few more tributary roads, because there are some of these side streets that definitely locals take, but we need to make sure that those are reinforced so that way when traffic is possibly diverted on the highway, that there's enough, spillover where people can actually like get gas, supplies, continue on their journey, kind of thing.
Yeah. Does 378 at 26 is that part of District 89?
It goes right up to a part of 26, and then down to 77.
Okay. Fish hatchery, that sort of area.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just curious. Well, one of the things I think that your district is going to, at least the voters in your district, that they have to deal with is this huge road project on 26 that's going on. 26, 126 over to I-20 is this enormous project that we're 2 or 3 years already into it, and based on some of the information that I read about a month and a half ago, they're already behind by about a year. And the project was forecast to take about 10 years anyway. Similar projects like that are taking place, whether it's up 26 to the Chapin area, or it's going, I think one of the things that's been really good over the course of the last 5 or 10 years is the fact that the 26 project all the way, 3 lanes all the way to Orangeburg has benefited us. I wasn't a fan of it because I didn't see the necessity, but it has eased some of the traffic congestion going down between Columbia and Charleston, or down to 95. But one of the things I think that people don't understand as far as like at a state level, what it is that legislators do in the House is that road projects like that in committee, that's where those things are fought for. Everything, most things get taken, they get fought for in committee. I guess, and I kind of want to go back to the marijuana part because I think for me, if someone asked me, well, how is marijuana going to benefit me? And as a potential candidate, I think that my message would be then, marijuana directly isn't going to, but at least in committee, when we decide on the budgetary concerns of how we handle the tax revenue that comes in from marijuana sales or medical marijuana sales or recreational use, in committee, we get to decide how that money is distributed, whether that revenue goes to schools or it goes to roads. This is the potential revenue that we could use to grind out and repave roads rather than just repatching. So there's a difference. You have the opportunity to actually repair roads the correct way so that they'll last for 10 years, or we're just patching them, and those patches pop out every time it gets cold enough and water gets underneath and ice pops the pothole back open, or a heavy enough truck rolls over it and knocks it out. That's the difference that a marijuana or a recreational marijuana revenue could benefit District 89. I think that's one of the biggest things. Like when traveling around Columbia, you go from Lexington side into the Richland side, and automatically the roads improve. But you only go about a quarter of a mile into the Richland sides and the roads are improved. It's almost like, hey, look what we did. Oh, we didn't do it far enough.
Possibly think too, like the possible ease of congestion and, some of the uses of like the hospital, like possibly less prescriptions going out for certain opioids. Yeah. Which we already have a problem with. Maybe in the midst of some bill, I could work on something to expunge records.
Yeah, absolutely.
If that's something only the governor could do, then maybe that's a resolution to put forward.
What is your opinion on the state of South Carolina being used as a collection agency for hospital medical bills? when that have defaulted.
I think it's kind of funny that we don't just go ahead and, using the Affordable Care Act, institute a single payer system in the state. Considering how much Blue Cross Blue Shield has all over the state.
Yeah,
that's a different thought. But no, I think that it's wild that we would be a state where those call centers, I guess, would be based. I guess because of the low wage to high profit margin.
Yeah.
Those kinds of businesses and what they collect would be good for the business and bad for the worker. But that's what we like to do. Apparently, we like to exploit our workers, because I guess we miss slavery so bad.
Yeah.
I think the ACA, all it does is complicate everything on the insurance side. And you could make a fund, like a one-payer system, off the fines that companies pay alone for not offering coverage when an employee is eligible for coverage and stuff. You see it all the time. And
but that's why that's in part why the Affordable Care Act was passed in 2012, 2013, so that you could, as just a citizen, you could just apply and hopefully get reduced coverage rather than having to rely on employer covered insurance. One of the big problems with that is we didn't expand our Medicaid program.
Correct.
We still haven't expanded our Medicaid program. For some reason, we refuse to expand our Medicaid program.
And you know what's crazy about that is that the reason I keep hearing that the Republicans in the legislative bodies here in South Carolina decided that they were not going to expand Medicaid was because it was money from the federal government, but how are we going to pay that back when they come calling?
But I'll stop you right there. Because it's your money already.
Right.
It's already your money. So what they're doing is sitting in your house, the General Assembly, telling you don't need your money. And then people are telling them, you're right, I don't need that.
Yeah. I'm
Insanity.
dumbfounded. I'm dumbfounded how easy it is to convince people
All
that,
because they say that it's someone else's money.
right.
They claim that it's someone else's, and they're right. It's someone else's money. It's their money.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's your money.
This is money that the federal government is basically saying, look, we want your state to have the funding necessary to be able to take care of individuals for minor health issues, whether it's lacerations or it's fevers or it's bronchitis. It's
preventative health stuff.
And when the federal government comes calling, it's like, hey, here's a check for $16 billion that we want you all to use for. You can't tell us how to spend that money. We're just not going to take it. And it's like, what? But
the whole thing is it's the people's money.
Yeah.
The federal is giving the people their money back. And we have our General Assembly, we have elected representatives either choosing to say nothing or actively saying, no, we don't want it. That's one of the, when they were debating, back even in, I think it was 2014, when the Senate was debating the Nullify Obamacare bill, I was one of the first 11 people arrested at a demonstration to shut down that debate.
That is just,
it worked for 3 weeks. They never passed that bill.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean,
well, the lawsuits that would have been faced, like the state of South Carolina would have had to defend itself for
I was doing that before the guy I'm running against got elected. I've been working for the people of South Carolina.
No, I have, prior to Ashland, basically strong arming you onto our podcast, which, no, I'm kidding. Ashland's wonderful. But there are some extremely talented, you included, there's very well communicated, very knowledgeable about the issues that are being faced, not only just in your district, but the way that impacts the entire state as a whole in representation. I want to go back to something that you mentioned that, earlier, being a member of the minority party in South Carolina legislature. There are people that look at that, whether they're moderates or, moderate Democrats, moderate Republicans, that look at that and they say, well, I want my representative to be a member of the majority party because that's how things get done.
Yeah.
And I have pushed back on that more times than I can count recently, whether it's on Facebook posts or things like that, because for a junior member of the legislative party as a member of the Republican Party, there is no voice there. The only people that are going to have a voice to be able to support their districts are the individuals that are coming in not associated with the majority party, because the state majority party in South Carolina, being the Republican Party, they already have a platform. They have already made their decisions for the next 6 years of exactly which bills they're going to try and push through committee to get onto the floor to be voted on and get to the governor's desk. This is a group that has such a tight control over the members of their party that when their party strays away, or when those individuals stray away from the party, the Katrina Sheelys of the party, the Rafe these are individuals that basically the Republican Party comes to them before the campaigns start and say, look, you're out. You didn't do what we wanted you to do and you're done, which means that every Republican that gets voted into office is just going to have to fall in line. You, as a state, they talk, voters talk about change, whether they're Republican or Democrat, they want change. You're not going to get change by continuing to vote in the same individuals that are the same individuals from a party that has complete and utter control over them.
There are people who've been serving since before the year 2000.
Yeah. I know what I was doing before the year 2000. Well, I guess I lived in Atlanta at the time, but
fighting Barbara Bush.
Hey, look, I campaign. I canvassed for Al Gore. I admit it. I did it.
Right. But there are people even serving longer than that.
Yeah.
Who are still there, in part because nobody challenges them, because I guess people have just given up.
Yeah.
Rather than I understanding, yes, I'm going into a minority party situation, but that also will give me more leverage and ability to do stuff in community to build our power locally.
Exactly.
To perhaps train up the next person to take this seat, because yes, it's not about just like me personally running for this seat. Sure, it's like thing I want to do. Sure, fine, admit that. But in service of my community where I live, I get to make it a little bit better. I get to make people's lives a little easier. I get to have people won't be ashamed of their government.
Yeah.
They'll have someone accessible that they can call or email. Like I remember one of the last times I called someone and their voicemail was full. Why is your voicemail full?
Right.
You're not listening to your voicemails. It's just like, it's simple, little simple things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
So let me ask you, as far as, because I think this is something that comes up, that's likely to come up every single time. State, South Carolina, I think, has a definite need for some justice reform, some criminal justice reform. South Carolina is per capita a state that sees more African American men arrested for minor drug crimes, non-violent minor drug crimes, than the next 10 states. It's a state that we've seen gun violence go up per capita higher and higher. We're what, number 4 in the country now? It's we just had the legalization of open carry in South Carolina.
Yeah, and then just a couple weeks ago, there was a young man who was shooting a firearm from a moving vehicle, an 18-year-old gentleman out near Lexington High School. So, and that's nothing to say of, the pregnant women who've been murdered over the last few weeks.
Oh, yeah. Or even to go in a different path, but the number of women that will die in the state of South Carolina because there are 10 to 16 some odd counties in the state of South Carolina that no longer have 14 OBGYNs. We have OBGYN deserts because South Carolina is going to prosecute doctors, OBGYNs that would potentially seek an abortion for a woman. These are people that have made a medical decision on what is the best path for a woman's health, and the state of South Carolina wants to prosecute them. They want to prosecute the women.
And remember, the representative, the representative I am intending to replace chose not to vote on that.
Right.
Chose not to take a position. But was cool being pictured with Governor McMaster with, these door flyers, like anti-trans kids and, supporting women by something like transgender people in sports. I don't know. It's just madness. Just madness.
It is.
And this is a lawyer who supports. Does he support these book bans that just went into place?
Yeah. What is his? Do you happen to know what his specialty in law is? It just says private practice.
Probably personal injury. I don't know.
all nines call a king kind of thing going on.
That's.
I don't know. He doesn't even have a number. He doesn't have a number. I don't know.
They ran out of repeating numbers in the phone book. That was what happened.
Right. Wow, ridiculous. And they will find an insane thread and pull it until the whole thing comes apart.
Yeah, I was just going to say, don't get me wrong. I think there's a necessity for lawyers out there that are going to defend people that don't know how to work the system. My disappointment comes is when those lawyers become politicians and then decide that the state of South Carolina needs laws that will tragically alter the ownership of businesses like bars and restaurants that are now required to have a liquor liability license or insurance in order to operate, for places that don't necessarily even make enough money to pay for the license.
Well, and that's and coming from the restaurant and service industry, I get that that's an issue. I get that that's a huge issue, and I've been trying to talk to some of the bars and restaurants in this area about that discussion, about that issue. No one, I mean, again, because it's early, maybe I haven't gotten to the right people yet, but I'm trying to have that discussion with people. But is that something that is even on his radar?
Right. Yeah.
I've heard of several, or at least several might be too strong a word, but I've heard of definitely a couple of restaurants in Greenville having closed.
Yeah. Well, Columbia South, even in Columbia, there are restaurants on Main Street that don't necessarily they serve liquor, they serve alcohol, but don't necessarily have the food side of the business in order to move themselves out of the necessity of that particular insurance. Mm-hmm. And it's creating a hardship for some of these restaurants to be able to even operate. That if they can't meet payroll, they can't continue to have workers, and then if they don't have workers, then they eventually have to close. And then we've got businesses that are closed on Main Street or on State Street in West Columbia. These are things that it isn't. I don't think it's in the best interest of small business here in our locale or in our state as a whole. Mm-hmm. So I think that with the right individuals, you included, to be in legislative process, with the mentality that there are so many moving pieces of what it takes for a state to operate, whether it's the government portion, the law enforcement portion, down to the small businesses, and then down to the individuals. But all of those pieces have to operate with the right amount of lubrication to make sure that everything stays together but works efficiently. And South Carolina's gone through the last 24, 30 years of being a state where there is no efficiency. The party that's been in control for more than 2 decades now has this grasp on power, and they redistrict. They move district lines in order to make sure they maintain power,
and then they don't accept responsibility
right
for choosing not to serve the people.
Right. I think that has to be part of the message, though, when it comes to campaigning, Democrats campaigning in the state, is voters have to be reminded that if voters in South Carolina think that South Carolina's on the wrong path and the change is needed, that they need to be reminded that the party that's in control now is the same party that's been in control for all of the years that South Carolina has declined in education, has risen in gun violence, has risen in domestic violence, has risen in drug
use,
crimes and usage.
Yeah.
These are all things that have happened under the majority party watch, and it's got to be changed. If South Carolina wants to improve, it's got to be changed.
Yeah, and we can do it.
Oh yeah,
we absolutely can do it. It's just a matter of people showing up to vote actively, not just believing in the process, but forcing their own power into that conversation, and then holding that elected representative accountable.
Right.
If you're running for office and you don't want to be held accountable, then why are you running for office at all?
Yeah, totally agree. Like, what's the point in being there if you're to be
That's
in
the whole point of the position.
A position of responsibility, or the position with the responsibility to represent individuals that you live around or you see on, what's the point in doing the representative part if you're not going to, what's the part of holding that position if you're not going to do it? So one of the last questions I want to ask you, you get elected in November, January, your first term in session after you've taken your oath. What committees do you think you would prefer that you be placed in?
Well, as a junior member, I'm sure I'm going to get possibly the list of last.
Yeah.
The 3M committee, I could see myself on that.
Okay.
That's medical.
Yeah.
Medical, municipal, and like public and military affairs or something like that. Another committee I might like to be on. They might put me on like agriculture.
Look, I think, and I'll both of those I think they're not bottom rung as far as I'm concerned, because the 3 M's, the medical, municipal, and military affairs, I think for South Carolina, those are 3 that are extremely important and have an impact on individuals every day. Agriculture, I think, I think that is the committee that is going to wind up having to make the biggest argument for the licensing and addition of medical marijuana growth, hemp, more hemp permits to be issued. Those are the 3 I think that are, that's agriculture is one of those ones I think that will make one of the biggest impacts in South Carolina, especially as we go through, as we continue to see climate change occurring.
Oh, yeah.
So
that's why I have the concern for, the possibility of course, a lot more future flooding. We already see it down here at the Riverwalk.
Oh yeah.
The potential possibility for tornadoes, which are not, super, super rare in the Lexington area.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So, yeah. So I think that's why those would be my 2 committees.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think those are outstanding committees, and if you got placed on them, if it was me, I'd be excited because those are those are. Yeah, I get that they don't get all the press coverage, but ultimately, I think that those are two that are important. Those committees are the ones that are very important to South Carolina.
Yeah.
Military affairs. How many employees being military, whether currently in the military or veterans affairs, that sort of thing, like that's a very large chunk of the tax-paying population here in South Carolina. So those are, to me, those are extremely important. So
Well, yeah, because then you have like particular issues too that have my concern, like the recent deaths that happened at Fort Jackson. Do we have like some known like endpoint for those?
right.
And
Yeah,
how do we
absolutely.
make sure that basic training continues to be safer? I mean, sure, that's a federal issue because that's separate and apart from state government, but state government can do something, regarding like either work outside regulations or something related to like employee breaks.
Yeah, totally. I absolutely totally agree. So Wayne, that's gonna pretty much do it for this episode. But real quick, do you want to do our 7 questions?
Sure.
All right. Well, I don't have a drum roll, but I'll just put this up here. It's our 7 questions. Okay. Yeah, that's right. Zach, do you want to do a drum roll? Is that in your ability,
like
or just a
National Lampoon's?
Yeah. All right. Yeah, that one's a good one. I appreciate that one. Let's see. All right. So the first question of our 7 questions is what was the last thing that you Googled?
What was the last thing that I Googled?
Yeah. And if you say the All About Nothing podcast, it's going to hurt my feelings.
No.
So bad.
So the last thing that I Googled, it actually wasn't even on Google. It was on Bing. And
Microsoft getting a little plug there.
And it was some town in South Carolina. Might have been Timmonsville. So yeah.
Okay. All right. What was the one thing that your parents did that embarrassed you the most?
Oh man, there was definitely, I was running in a race and they were on the sidelines yelling at me to like keep running, run faster. It's like, why are you
move your legs faster? Run.
I just needed to focus. I was focused.
All right. If you could have one superpower, what would it be?
Teleportation has always been a fun choice.
Little night crawler. I get it.
Yeah. I think Goku's instant transmission just gone.
I mean, it beats packing
for sure. I'll stay at my house. Don't y'all worry about it.
I say this frequently enough that I think people roll their eyes when I say it, but the day that they invent or the day that we can transport matter from one place to another without actual motion, I'm there. If I don't have to drive somewhere, if you take away that responsibility for me of having to get in my vehicle, spend money on gasoline, but if you can just if I can just transport somewhere, I'm in. That's it. That's a game changer.
Well, then you have the conundrum of are you the same person when you're reassembled on the other end?
You know what though? I think my intelligence is high enough that I can just ignore that part and just be like,
you got to be good with mystery.
Yeah. You die, but there's another version of you living on.
Yeah, it's exactly. All right. What is your least favorite candy and why?
Ooh, least favorite candy? Do I have a least favorite candy?
Yeah, you can say almond joys or mounds. No one likes this.
No, probably those little cinnamon red candies.
Oh,
hot tamales
hot,
or...
yeah. That's the same. Like, what's the alcohol that's
it just
the
tastes like
hot
fire.
Yeah.
Fire and sugar.
What's
Fireball?
That's it, Fireball. So I never used to buy Fireball. I'd buy that's off-brand. Hot damn.
Wow.
So yeah. I was broke. I was poor. What is your favorite? I'm sorry. What is your most embarrassing favorite song? What's the song that when you hear come on, you look around to see if anybody's looking at you because you're already singing it?
Oh God. There's so many.
Look, ladies and gentlemen, District 89. This is the guy you need to elect because
I've been playing music for a long time. I don't anymore. My relationship with music is long and lovely.
Okay.
I don't know. I guess there's.
Well, you and I both grew up.
By Myself by Celine Dion is, I guess.
Okay. Okay. That's embarrassing. No, I'm just kidding.
I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of Anita Baker that's really good.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. See, like I have having twin girls that are almost 10 years old now. I can't play any of the music that I grew up to. Well, I mean, because you're a child of the 90s. I mean, you grew up.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but I grew up. I assume you're probably 41.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So I was born in 79. I was a child of the 80s, listening to things like, when I grew up, I was listening. It was
Poison. Yeah. I know.
Yeah. I was gonna say it was. It was Poison. It was Aerosmith. It was Duran Duran, and it was a very.
Oh my God, Wham!
Yeah.
Love Wham.
Look, I still listen to Hall & Oates now. I mean,
there's good Hall & Oates to listen to.
Oh, it's fantastic. But I'll be honest.
Let's do it.
Yeah, but I'll be honest. When Hall & Oates comes on, if somebody else is in the car at the same time, I kind of look over and go like, "All right, are they gonna really want to hear me belt out?"
Yeah, but who
Sarah
can,
Smiles?
Who can refuse to not sing along with Maneater or something?
Yeah, I don't disagree. I don't disagree.
Yeah. And
but
then Nelly Furtado changed the game on Maneater. It was amazing.
Yeah, that's true. So let's see. Question number 6 is, what is the one question that you wished we had asked you?
What is the one question I wished you had asked?
That's still going to make us look professional.
I guess why District 89, maybe. Why I chose to run here.
Okay, yeah.
Because I've lived in Columbia for a little bit. I've lived in Houston, and but having grown up in Red Bank and gone between West Columbia, Casey, Springdale, and to Red Bank, that just made that trip so many times over the years, and then getting the opportunity to live in West Columbia, interact with Casey, drive through Springdale, I think it's important to have that knowledge of how this place has changed, a little bit of an outsider's vision of how this could be better.
Yeah.
And just, I think it's so awesome that having grown up just around the district to now possibly being in the position where I could help institutionalize some change and perhaps make some things better, not just for the people of this district, but the state too. It's a heavy responsibility that I take seriously and that I want to do right by the people. And so why I chose this district to run in is because I think this place does deserve someone who's going to be fighting for them very hard.
Yeah.
Rather than someone who can't even get 50% of the vote running by himself.
Yeah. Yeah. I will just say there's a reason it's called red bank and not blue bank. Also, just to throw that in there.
Hey man, I heard some horror stories about when I was a kid. Apparently, the Klan was still active over there. So I get it, and then seeing how our state has tried to stop people from casting ballots because there was the fury over, we don't want dead people voting. Now we all have voter ID. Now voters overcame that. Now there's the whole, everybody's just lying to you.
Yeah.
Rather than, why aren't, like, the wins that we have been able to gain so far, couple of states where they've passed abortion into their constitution, a few states where, you have had underdog candidates win. I think the same is very much ripe for happening here. It's just a matter of, one, has somebody decided to do it, and then two, do we as a populace do we really is change what we really want?
Right.
Because I can't force people to vote. I can just tell people that I'm available to vote for.
Yeah. I completely agree. All right. Last question. What is the one question? Oh, nope. Sorry. That wasn't the last. That was the other last question. The other, I can't find it. I remember it. What is the one question that you're glad we didn't ask, and you don't have to answer it?
USC or Clemson?
Oh, you know what?
Yeah.
That is a question that gets asked on here a lot. So you don't have to answer that question.
I take it you're glad we didn't ask because of what I'm wearing, and maybe who's also in attendance.
No. Honestly, it's because I don't choose sides. Even young, I was like, man, this is not the important fight.
It's very important.
And then I lost my microphone.
Well, you've been hitting that thing like a speed bag.
You're right, and I'm gonna. It's gonna make a little bit more noise while I put it back in.
But it's cool though. I get it. Everybody gets a participation trophy. But no. So yeah. So I haven't. So I'm neither Clemson. I'm neither USC. I drink free beer.
There it is.
Where it is offered.
There it is. All right. Well, Wayne, we're really glad you could join us, and I hope we get to hear from you again, and I hope that we see you get elected in November. We are at your disposal if there's anything that we can do for you. If you have if you do any town halls or anything, I'd like to know, because again, I'm in the district directly adjacent to you. I'm in 88. Okay. So I would enjoy coming out and meeting you, and if there's anything that we can do from a perspective of candidates running, Matt Villardo running up in Fort Mill, he's we're always looking for connections with candidates in other areas too. So let's make sure that we keep in touch and that we're all driving towards the same victory. So
indeed, and that's what it's going to take. It is going to take, when they like to say on their side, a populist candidate, a populist movement. No, this is exactly what that looks like. This looks like the working people, the people who actually make these businesses money. Like, it looks like us getting together for a collective goal.
Yeah, it's gonna take all of us to really get the change that South Carolina needs in order to progress.
The change it deserves. This is ridiculous.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Well, Wayne, what's your website so that people can go there to make donations?
So people can go to WB for HD 89.
Okay.
That's FOR. So WB FOR HD 89.com. You can donate there. I'm looking forward to changing it up a little bit more so I can add more content, because I certainly do want people going on there, seeing, of course, what I stand for, and hope to do in what little way I can. But I also want people to contact me because I want to know what they see as important.
Yeah.
As well.
Yeah.
Because again, that's not something that the current representative has ever seemed to be concerned with.
Right. Yeah, absolutely agree. Wayne Border, District 89 here, Casey, West Columbia, Springdale. Thank you very much for being on the podcast with us, and we look forward to seeing success. And like I said, anything we can do to be helpful, just let us know. Ashlyn is very good about telling us what she needs us to do something too. So thank you very much, Wayne. We appreciate your time, especially on a Saturday, and I hope you got as much rain as I did.
Thank you for having me.
All right, thank you very much again, Wayne. All right, that's going to do it for this episode. This is episode number 213 of the All About Nothing podcast. Zach, thank you for being here. I appreciate your time as well on a Saturday.
Absolutely.
Let's see. I have to read this because if I don't read it verbatim, then I'm going to mess it up. But I'm going to try and do it quickly too. Links to past episodes. I messed up right off the bat. Links to past episodes, podcast platforms, merchandise, and social media available on our webpage, theallaboutnothing.com. And if you think our financial model of giving away free content and entertainment is silly and you're in the giving mood, why not become an official Nothing About and support the show monthly? Members get early access to this episode as well as exclusive content, or you can make a one-time donation through the same link. If you think you want to be a part of the show, you can call us, leave us a message, 803-672-0533, or you can email the show at theallaboutnothing.com or join our Discord server. Links available at theallaboutnothing.com. Thank you very much, everybody, for listening. You all stay safe and
keep your hands to yourself.
There you go. The All About Nothing podcast is produced and engineered by me, Barrett Gruber. Thanks to Cake for our intro music, Sick of You. You can follow everything Cake the band at cakemusic.com. Thanks to Muff the producer for our outro music. You can follow Muff on Instagram at Muff the producer. I am Barrett Gruber. You can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Barrett Gruber or visit my linktree /Barrett Gruber. Want to support the show? Visit our webpage, theallaboutnothing.com, and become a member. There are several tiers available, including memberships that give you early access to episodes as well as exclusive content. Visit theallaboutnothing.com. To find links to our social media, merchandise, and past episodes, visit theallaboutnothing.com. If you'd like to be heard on the show, you can call and leave us a message. Dial 803-672-0533. If the time between these episodes is more than you can handle, check out our partner podcast. Zach and I host What the Pod Was That with Carrie Simmons. Visit whatthepodwasthat.com for links and details. Me takes a deep dive down the rabbit hole in episodes of Welcome to Wonderland. Available on all the podcast platforms. Visit WTWLpod.com for details. As well, you can listen to the political and social conversation between Dr. Jamela Brooks and Bill Kimmler on Black, White, and Blue in the South, available wherever you listen to podcasts. Please subscribe and share this show. If you're on YouTube, please like and hit the notification bell. Thank you for listening. The preceding podcast is a product of Big Media and copyright 2024, all rights reserved.